Victory belongs to those who believe they were born for it. Your future is not written in the stars. It is written by your actions, by your choices, by your courage. Most live like pawns, afraid to offend, afraid to rise, afraid to lead. But not you. You're here because something inside you refuses to kneel. Good. Because I'm here to remind you, you weren't made to follow. You were made to rule. And that mindset, that's your weapon. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind and tell us, where are you watching from? Listen to me carefully. The greatest battle you will ever fight isn't on any physical battlefield. It's in the shadowed corridors of your own mind. I've commanded armies across Europe, conquered nations that thought themselves invincible. But do you know where every victory began? In the quiet moments before dawn, in the ironclad discipline of my thoughts, you dream of power, of influence, of leaving your mark on history. Then understand this: you cannot command others until you first command yourself. Your mind is your primary weapon, more decisive than any sword, more powerful than any army. But like any weapon, it must be mastered. Most people live at the mercy of their thoughts. They are bombarded by doubts, weakened by fears, paralyzed by uncertainty. Their minds are like untrained soldiers, undisciplined, unreliable, ready to desert at the first sign of battle. Is this you? Then listen closely, because I'm about to share the principles of mental conquest that built an empire. First principle: your thoughts are not suggestions. They are orders. When a thought enters your mind, it must be subjected to the same brutal scrutiny as any soldier in my army. Is it worthy of your mental regiment? Does it serve your campaign? If not, it must be eliminated without mercy. This is not natural. This is not comfortable. This is command. Second principle: establish your mental headquarters. Every morning before the world awakens, you must review your strategic objectives. What territory will you conquer today? What weaknesses in your character will you fortify? What advances will you make toward your ultimate victory? This is not meditation. This is mobilization. You must understand, your mind will test you. It will present you with excuses disguised as reason, with fears masquerading as wisdom. This is the moment where most fall. They negotiate with weakness. They compromise with comfort. But you must learn to rule with absolute authority. When you decide to advance, no part of you retreats. I remember standing before the Alps with my army. Every rational voice said it was impossible to cross with artillery in winter. Impossible? I made that word surrender to my will, because in my mind the crossing was already accomplished. The physical battle was merely a formality. This is the level of mental command you must achieve. When you decide something, it must be done. Not because you feel motivated, not because conditions are perfect, but because you have commanded it. Your word to yourself must become more binding than any contract, more absolute than any law. But let me warn you, this kind of mental sovereignty comes with a price. You will feel isolated. The masses don't understand this level of self-discipline. They call it obsession. They call it madness? Good. Let them talk. While they debate, you dominate. While they discuss, you decide. While they wonder, you win. Your mind must become a war room where strategies are planned, where decisions are made, where victories are determined before a single battle is fought. Every thought that enters must serve your empire. Every mental resource must be directed toward your objectives. This is not thinking. This is governing. Start with the small battles. When your mind says, later, command now. When it whispers, impossible, order, it will be done. When it suggests good enough, demand excellence. Each of these minor victories strengthens your authority. Each time you overrule weakness, you reinforce your position as sovereign of your mental domain. Remember this: the world will try to command your thoughts. Society will attempt to install its programming. The weak will try to infect you with their doubts. This is why your mental discipline must be absolute. Your mind is your empire. Guard its borders, control its resources, direct its forces. The weak mind asks, can I? The commanding mind states, I will. The weak mind seeks permission. The commanding mind gives orders. The weak mind hopes. The commanding mind decides, you want to know why I conquered Europe? Because in my mind, it was already mine. Every victory was won in my thoughts before it was won on the field. This is your first lesson in rule. Command starts in the mind. Master this, and you've mastered the foundation of all power. Now, look at your current mental state. Are you the emperor of your thoughts, or are you merely a citizen in someone else's empire? The time has come to establish absolute rule. Begin your conquest, where all true conquest begins, in the battleground of your mind. Let me tell you about the most expensive thing in the world of power. It's not gold. It's not military might. It's hesitation. I've seen empires crumble not from lack of strength, but from lack of certainty. The leader who hesitates has already lost. They just don't know it yet. You see, in the courts of power, in the boardrooms of influence, in the theaters of war, people don't follow plans. They don't follow strategies. They follow certainty. And certainty? That's not something you find. It's something you forge in the furnace of decision. I've watched commanders with superior forces lose to inferior ones. Why? Because they second-guessed. They wavered. They let doubt corrupt their command. Meanwhile, I've led outnumbered forces to victory after victory, not because we were stronger, but because our certainty was absolute. When you move with total conviction, you become a force of nature, and nature brooks no argument. Here's what the masses don't understand about certainty. It's not about being right. It's about being decisive. When I made decisions that shaped the fate of nations, do you think I had all the information? Do you think the path was clear? Never. But clarity isn't a prerequisite for command. Command is what creates clarity. Most people wait for certainty to arrive like some divine messenger. They want guarantees, they want signs, they want permission. And while they wait, opportunities vanish, power shifts, empires fall. But you must learn to manufacture certainty from the raw materials of incomplete information and imperfect circumstances. Let me share with you the architecture of unshakable certainty. First, decision velocity. The speed at which you decide is often more important than the decision itself. A good decision executed swiftly is better than a perfect decision executed too late. When I saw an opportunity in battle, I didn't form a committee. I didn't debate possibilities. I decided. I acted. The enemy was still planning while we were already victorious. Second, commitment density. Once you decide, burn the bridges behind you. Destroy the possibility of retreat. When I crossed into Italy, I made sure my armies knew there was only one direction to move. Forward. Your commitment must be so absolute that the very thought of alternatives becomes treason. Third, silence your inner court. Every leader has an inner council of doubts, fears, and hesitations. They present themselves as wisdom, as caution, as reasonable concerns. Silence them. Not because they're wrong, but because they're irrelevant. The time for debate is before the decision. After, it's time for execution. You must understand, uncertainty is a luxury of the weak. When you step into the arena of power, your certainty must become your signature. People should feel it in your voice, see it in your movements, sense it in your silence. This isn't arrogance, it's authority. I've seen it countless times. Two leaders, equal in resources, equal in intelligence, but dramatically unequal in their capacity for certainty. One hesitates, looks for consensus, waits for the perfect moment. The other decides, commits, moves. Guess who history remembers? Guess who shapes the future? Let me be clear. This level of certainty will make others uncomfortable. They'll call it reckless. They'll warn you about prudence. They'll counsel caution. These are the voices of the mediocre, trying to preserve their comfortable irrelevance. True leadership lives in the domain of decisive action. Your certainty must become an immovable force. When you speak, it should carry the weight of law. When You move, it should have the inevitability of nature. When you decide, it should echo with the finality of fate. This is not something you're born with. It's something you build, decision by decision, commitment by commitment. Remember this. In the vacuum of uncertainty, power flows to the most certain voice. Nature abhors a vacuum, and humans abhor uncertainty. Become the most certain force in your sphere, and watch how reality rearranges itself around your decisions. You want to know why my soldiers would follow me into impossible battles? Because my certainty was contagious. It infected them with the audacity to attempt what others deemed impossible. This is the currency of true leadership, not just being certain, but becoming a source of certainty for others. So let me ask you, what decisions have you been postponing? What actions have you been diluting with doubt? The time for hesitation is over. Decide, commit, move. Let your certainty become your crown, and watch as the world makes way for your advance. The most dangerous person in any room is not the one who speaks the loudest, it's the one who observes the most. I conquered Europe not just through force of arms, but through the power of observation. While others talked, I watched. While they revealed, I studied. While they exposed their weaknesses, I sharpened my sword. Let me teach you the art of strategic silence. In the courts of power, words are like currency. The more you spend, the less you have. Every time you speak, you give away information. Every time you remain silent, you gather it. This is not about being shy or reserved. This is about being lethal in your efficiency. Most people are desperate to be heard. They spill their thoughts like water from a broken vessel, revealing their fears, their ambitions, their weaknesses. They mistake attention for power, noise for influence. But true power? True power observes. It watches. It waits. I've won battles before they began simply by watching my opponents. Their movements, their patterns, their habits, everything speaks. To those who know how to listen with their eyes. The way a man holds himself in victory reveals how he'll crumble in defeat. The way a leader treats servants shows how they'll command armies. Here's what most never learn. Silence is not passive. It's an active force. When you maintain silence in a room full of noise, you create a vacuum. And in that vacuum, the weak will rush to fill it with their revelations, their insecurities, their strategic mistakes. Your silence becomes a weapon that makes others defeat themselves. But this requires discipline, the urge to speak, to prove yourself, to demonstrate your intelligence. This is the impulse of the amateur. The master knows that power lies not in what you project, but in what you absorb. Every time you resist the urge to speak unnecessarily, you strengthen your position. Learn to read the invisible. Body language, micro-expressions, patterns of behavior. These are the texts written in the book of human nature. When someone sees words say confident, but their shoulders say afraid, believe the shoulders. They never learn to lie. In negotiations, I would often maintain absolute silence after someone made their proposal. The silence would stretch until it became uncomfortable, and in that discomfort, they would start to negotiate against themselves, offering better terms, revealing their desperation. Silence, when wielded with precision, is more powerful than any argument. Your eyes must become intelligence officers, constantly gathering information. The way your rivals arrange their workspace, the photos they choose to display, the times they choose to act, everything is intelligence if you know how to process it. While others are forming opinions, you should be forming files. When you do speak, it must have the impact of a sudden strike. Your words should cut through the air like a blade, precise and impossible to ignore. This is why masters of power speak little, because when they do, the contrast against their silence commands attention. Remember this. In the game of power, the one who knows the most while revealing the least holds the advantage. Every time you speak, you should ask yourself, does this serve my empire? Does this advance my position? If not, let silence be your shield and observation your sword. Most people think power is about being seen. They're wrong. Power is about seeing. While they pose, you observe. While they talk, you analyze. While they reveal, you record. This is how you build an unshakable foundation of strategic advantage. I've seen commanders lose battles because they couldn't stop talking about their strategies. I've seen politicians fall because they couldn't resist sharing their cleverness. I've seen empires crumble because their leaders confused volume with power. Don't make their mistake. Your silence should become legendary. People should wonder what you're thinking. They should feel the weight of your observation. They should never be quite sure what you know or what you've noticed. This uncertainty is your ally. In the end, the greatest power lies not in what you say, but in what you notice, not in how you're seen, but in how you see, not in the noise you make, but in the intelligence you gather. So, let me ask you, how much have you truly observed today? What signals have you missed while you were busy speaking? What advantages have you surrendered by revealing too much? The time has come to master the art of strategic silence. Watch, wait, learn, and let your silence speak volumes about your power. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you contradicts everything the masses believe about success. They train for comfort. They prepare for the best conditions. They practice when they feel good. And this is precisely why they crumble when reality bares its teeth. I conquered Europe not by training my armies for parades, but by preparing them for hell. We marched through snow. We fought in rain. We crossed mountains that generals called impossible. Why? Because I understood a fundamental truth. Pressure is not the enemy. It's the forge that creates emperors. Most people spend their lives avoiding pressure. They seek the path of least resistance, the road most traveled, the choice that brings the least discomfort, and in doing so, they sentence themselves to mediocrity. They become weak, soft, unable to withstand the storms that invariably come. With great achievement, let me share with you the iron laws of pressure training. First, deliberately seek out conditions that make you uncomfortable. If speaking in public terrifies you, speak more often. If early mornings break you, wake up earlier. If solitude disturbs you, learn to dominate it. Your weaknesses are not boundaries, they're battlegrounds. When I trained my officers, I would deliberately create chaos during their planning sessions. I would change objectives mid-strategy. I would remove resources they thought were guaranteed. Why? Because I knew that in real battle, plans rarely survive first contact with the enemy. I wasn't training them to execute perfect plans. I was training them to master chaos. Here's what the weak don't understand. Pressure is a privilege. It's the universe's way of testing your worthiness for greater challenges. When you feel overwhelmed, when your muscles scream, when your mind begs for relief, this is not the moment to retreat. This is the moment to advance. I've watched armies twice our size break under pressure while my soldiers stood firm. The difference wasn't in numbers or equipment, it was in preparation. We didn't just train for battle, we trained for exhaustion. We didn't just practice tactics, we practiced endurance. While others trained until they got it right, we trained until we couldn't get it wrong. Second law, make your practice harder than your performance. If you want to excel in negotiation, practice with smarter opponents. If you want to master public speaking, rehearse with hostile audiences. If you want to lead under pressure, create more pressure in your preparation than you'll ever face in reality. Think of pressure like a muscle. It grows stronger only when pushed past its comfort zone. Every time you embrace discomfort, every time you push through resistance, every time you refuse to break under pressure, you're building your capacity for greatness. Most people break not because the pressure is too high, but because their preparation was too low. They train in ideal conditions and then wonder why they crumble when reality presents them with challenges. This is the path of the amateur. The path of the master is different. I want you to understand something crucial. Comfort is not your friend. It's a seductive enemy that promises safety while delivering stagnation. Every moment of comfort is a moment of missed growth. Every instance of ease is an opportunity for your competitors to outwork you. When my armies faced the harsh winter in Russia, Many generals thought it was impossible to fight in such conditions. But we had trained for worse. We had prepared for the impossible. While others saw obstacles, we saw opportunities to prove our superiority. This is the mindset you must develop. Welcome pressure. Seek it out. Create it in your training. When others flee from challenges, you must run toward them. When others seek relief, you must demand more resistance. This is how you build an unshakable foundation for power. Remember this: the person who has mastered pressure will always defeat the one who has mastered comfort. In any arena, business, leadership, warfare, the one who breaks last wins. And you don't break last by accident. You earn that right through relentless preparation. Your daily life should be a continuous pressure test. Every workout should push your limits. Every project should stretch your capabilities. Every goal should force you to grow. This isn't about being reckless, it's about being ready. So let me ask you, what pressures are you avoiding? What discomforts are you dodging? What challenges are you postponing? The time has come to reverse your relationship with pressure. Stop seeing it as something to survive. Start seeing it as something to master, because in the end, life will test you. Power will test you. Leadership will test you. And in that moment of truth, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your training. Make sure that level is high enough to match your ambitions. Power is not static. It flows like water, moves like wind, strikes like lightning. In all my campaigns, in all my conquests, I understood one principle above all. He who masters movement masters destiny. The world belongs to those who know when to advance, when to retreat, and when to strike with devastating precision. Let me tell you something that the history books often miss. My greatest victories weren't won through superior numbers or better equipment. They were won through the art of movement. While other generals positioned their forces like pieces on a chessboard, I orchestrated them like elements in a storm. Fluid, unpredictable, overwhelming. Most people approach power like statues, rigid, unchanging, rooted in place. They build their fortresses, establish their positions, and then wonder why the world passes them by. But true power? True power is kinetic. It's the ability to shift, adapt, and strike from angles your opponents. Never thought to guard against first principle of movement. Never be where they expect you to be. In battle, predictability is death. In leadership, it's suicide. Every time you become predictable, you become vulnerable. Your routines become weaknesses. Your patterns become opportunities for your enemies. I remember the faces of opposing generals when we appeared where they thought it impossible. Through mountain passes, they'd dismissed as impassable. Behind defenses, they'd considered impenetrable. Why were we able to do this? Because while they thought in terms of positions, we thought in terms of movement. Here's what the masses don't understand about movement. It's not just physical, it's psychological, it's strategic. Every action you take, every decision you make, every word you speak should advance your position. Static power decays, dynamic power multiplies. Think about this. When you enter a room, does the energy shift? When you speak, does the conversation move? When you act, does the situation change? If not, you haven't mastered the discipline of movement. You're not leading the dance, you're just following the steps. Second principle, movement must have purpose. I've seen leaders who confuse motion with progress, activity with achievement. They rush from meeting to meeting, crisis to crisis, decision to decision, but they're not moving with purpose. They're just stirring dust in the wind. Your movements must be deliberate, strategic. Each step should bring you closer to your objective. Each action should strengthen your position. Each maneuver should put your opponents at a disadvantage. This is not about being busy. It's about being effective. When I planned campaigns, I didn't just consider where we were or where we needed to be. I considered every step between those points. Every movement was calculated. Every advance was measured. Every retreat was strategic. This is how you turn movement into momentum. Most people fail not because they don't move, but because their movements lack intention. They react instead of initiate. They drift instead of drive. They flutter instead of fly. This is the movement of the weak, scattered, unfocused, wasteful. Learn to move like an emperor. When you walk, own the ground beneath your feet. When you speak, let your words carry weight. When you act, make every motion count. Your presence should be felt before you're seen. Your impact should remain after you've gone. Third principle, master the rhythm of power. Know when to surge forward and when to hold position. Know when to press your advantage and when to conserve your strength. Know when to move like lightning and when to move like the tide. Unstoppable but patient. I've won battles by moving slowly when my enemies expected speed, by attacking when they thought we'd defend, by advancing when they predicted retreat. This is the mastery of movement, the ability to control the rhythm of conflict, the tempo of engagement, the pace of power. Remember this, in the game of power, the board is never static. Opportunities appear and vanish, alliances shift, circumstances change. The leader who cannot move with these changes becomes a relic, a monument to past glory, not a force for future victory. Your power must become dynamic. Your influence must become mobile. Your presence must become a force that others must constantly recalculate, constantly consider, constantly respond to. This is how you turn movement into dominance. So let me ask you, how are you moving through your world? Are your actions creating momentum or just motion? Are your movements advancing your position or just exhausting your resources? The time has come to master the discipline of movement. Because in the end, it's not where you stand that matters, it's how you move. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this is the foundation upon which empires are built. Everyone sees the glory of conquest, the brilliance of victory, the grandeur of achievement, but few understand the brutal truth behind. Every great conquest lies an unshakable routine. Behind every victory stands the fortress of habit. Behind every achievement looms the empire of discipline. I didn't conquer Europe through sporadic bursts of brilliance. I built an empire through the relentless execution of daily disciplines. While others slept, I studied maps. While others celebrated, I planned campaigns. While others rested on their laurels, I refined my strategies. This wasn't glamorous, it wasn't exciting, but it was imperial. Let me share with you the architecture of unstoppable routine. First principle, your daily habits are your real throne, not the gold one that everyone sees, but the iron one that you forge every morning before dawn. Every great leader I've known, every commander who's earned my respect, had one thing in common. They were slaves to their routine before they were masters of their destiny. Most people treat routine like a prison. They see it as something that restricts them, confines them, limits their freedom. They couldn't be more wrong. Routine isn't your cage, it's your crown. It's the daily declaration that you rule your own actions, that you command your own time, that you govern your own life. Think about this. Every morning when I was building my empire, I followed the same sequence of actions. Review intelligence, reports, study maps, train with my weapons, plan strategies, write orders. This wasn't because I lacked imagination. It was because I understood that routine is the foundation of excellence. Here's what the masses don't understand about routine. It's not about the actions themselves. It's about the authority you build through consistent execution. Every time you follow through on a committed action, you strengthen your command over yourself. Every time you maintain discipline when others would break, you forge your character stronger. I've seen armies with superior numbers crumble because they lack the discipline of routine. I've watched empires fall because their leaders confused freedom with chaos. Your routine is your regiment. Your habits are your army. Your discipline is your weapon. Second principle, build your routine like you would build a fortress. Every element must have a purpose. Every action must reinforce the whole. Your morning routine should be as precise as a military operation, your daily habits as reliable as the sunrise. This isn't about being rigid, it's about being ready. When I trained my officers, I didn't just teach them strategy and tactics. I taught them the power of routine, how to maintain discipline under fire, how to keep their commands clear and consistent, how to build systems that would sustain them through the chaos of battle. Because I knew that in the moment of truth, they would not rise to their hopes. They would fall to their habits. Your routine must become sacred. Treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his rituals, that a warrior treats his weapons, that a king treats his crown. Because in truth, your routine is all of these things. It's your ritual of power, your weapon of conquest, your crown of authority. Third principle, your routine must be protected at all costs. The world will conspire to break it. People will try to interrupt it. Circumstances will attempt to disrupt it. This is where most people fail. They let their fortress of habit be breached by the barbarians of chaos. I remember times during campaigns when everything was falling apart around us. Supplies were low, morale was wavering, the enemy was advancing. But I maintained my routine. I reviewed my maps at the same time. I trained at the same hour. I planned at the same moment. This wasn't stubbornness, it was strategy. Because here's the truth about routine. It's not just about getting things done. It's about maintaining your center of power when the world spins into chaos. It's about having a foundation so solid that nothing can shake you. It's about building an internal empire that no external force can conquer. Your routine should become legendary. People should know that trying to disrupt it is like trying to move a mountain. Your commitment to your daily disciplines should become a force of nature, as reliable as gravity, as unstoppable as time. Remember this, the difference between a dreamer and an emperor isn't talent, isn't luck, isn't circumstance. It's routine. The dreamer has great ideas but irregular habits. The emperor has iron disciplines and unwavering execution. So let me ask you, what is your routine? Not what you do sometimes, not what you do when you feel like it, but what you do with the consistency of the sunrise. What are the daily disciplines that are forging your character, building your power, establishing your empire? The time has come to build your empire of routine, because in the end, it's not the grand gestures that create lasting power. It's the small actions executed with religious consistency that build an unshakable throne. There is a power that precedes words, that transcends physical strength, that commands attention without demanding it. This is the power of presence. I've seen rooms fall silent before I entered them. I've watched armies stand straighter at the mere rumor of my approach. This wasn't magic. This wasn't charm. This was the deliberate cultivation of imperial presence. Let me tell you something that most leaders never understand. Your physical presence is merely the confirmation of your energetic arrival. The truly powerful don't enter rooms, they transform them. Their presence is felt like an approaching storm, like a rising tide, like an imminent dawn. This is not about size, not about volume, not about flash. This is about force. Most people think presence is about being seen. They focus on their appearance, their posture, their words. But true presence is about being felt. It's about creating an energy so palpable that others respond to it instinctively, like metal to a magnet, like plants to the sun. First principle of presence: cultivate your gravitational field. Every emperor, every true leader I've known had this quality. They didn't just occupy space, they commanded it. Their presence had weight, had density, had mass. When they moved through a room, the air moved with them. When they stood still, they became the center around which everything else orbited. I remember walking through the ranks before battle. I didn't need to shout, I didn't need to threaten. My presence carried the weight of absolute command. The soldiers felt it. They responded to it. Their spines straightened, their eyes focused. Their spirits lifted, not because of what I said, but because of what I radiated. Here's what the masses don't understand about presence. It's not something you put on like a coat. It's something you cultivate like a garden, something you forge like a weapon, something you build like an empire. Every thought you think, every decision you make, every action you take either strengthens or weakens your presence. Think about the great forces of nature. They don't announce themselves. They don't explain themselves. They don't justify themselves. They simply are. This is the quality you must develop. Your presence should be as undeniable as gravity, as evident as sunlight, as natural as breathing. Second principle, master the art of energetic preparation. Before I entered any significant space, a war room, a diplomatic meeting, a battlefield, I would prepare not just my strategy, but my presence. I would gather my force, focus my intent, concentrate my power. Because I understood that the battle for influence begins before the first word is spoken. Most people dissipate their presence through nervous movement, unnecessary speech, unfocused attention. They leak power like a broken vessel leaks water. You must learn to contain your force, to concentrate your energy, to project your power with precision. Your presence should enter a room like a blade, clean, sharp, undeniable. People should feel you arrive before they see you arrive. They should sense your approach before they hear your steps. This isn't mysticism, it's mastery. Third principle, understand that presence is a language more ancient than words. It speaks directly to the primitive brain, to the part of humans that recognizes power instinctively. When your presence is properly cultivated, you can communicate authority, command respect, and establish dominance without saying a single word. I've won negotiations before they began, simply through the quality of my presence. I've ended rebellions before they started, merely by appearing at the right moment with the right energy. This is the power of presence. It makes your actual use of force almost unnecessary. Your presence must become your herald. When people speak of you, they should speak not just of your achievements, but of how it feels to be in your presence. They should struggle to describe it, like trying to describe the force of a storm or the weight of a mountain. Remember this, in the realm of power, presence is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's not an accessory to your authority, it's the foundation of it. Every great leader in history understood this. They didn't just command armies or run empires, they commanded space itself. Your presence should be felt on multiple levels. Physical, yes, your posture, your movement, your stillness, but also energetic, the force of your focus, the weight of your attention, the power of your intent, and spiritual, the unshakable certainty of your purpose, the absolute clarity of your vision, the undeniable authority of your mission. So let me ask you, what quality of presence do you currently command? When you enter a space, does the energy shift? When you focus your attention, do people feel it? When you make a decision, does your very presence reinforce its inevitability? The time has come to master the art of presence. Because in the game of power, it's not enough to have authority. You must radiate it. It's not enough to have power, you must project it. Your presence must become a force that others feel, a power they respect, an energy they remember. This is how you build an empire of influence, not just through what you do or what you say, but through what you emanate. Let your presence become your crown, your force become your scepter, your energy become your throne. There is a secret that separates true rulers from mere pretenders, emperors from actors, masters from apprentices. It's not strategy, though that matters. It's not strength, though that helps. It's detachment, the ability to execute with absolute precision while remaining completely unattached to the outcome. Let me tell you something that most will never understand. Attachment is the chain that binds you to mediocrity. I've seen brilliant generals lose battles because they became too attached to their original plan. I've watched powerful leaders fall because they couldn't detach from their past successes. Attachment makes you predictable. Detachment makes you unstoppable. Most people operate from a place of desperate desire. They want so badly to succeed, to be recognized, to win, that they suffocate their own power. They grip their goals so tightly, they strangle them. This is the path of the amateur. Well, the path of the master is different. When I led armies into battle, I wasn't attached to victory. I was committed to excellence. When I made strategic decisions, I wasn't attached to being right. I was committed to being effective. This is the paradox of power. The less you need a specific outcome, the more likely you are to achieve it. First principle of detachment: learn to execute without desperation. Every action you take should be clean, precise, uncontaminated by emotional need. Whether you're negotiating a treaty or commanding an army, your moves should flow from strategic clarity, not emotional necessity. I remember standing before battles that would determine the fate of nations. Lesser commanders would be consumed by the weight of the moment, paralyzed by the need to win. But I remained detached, not uninvested, but unattached. This allowed me to see opportunities others missed, to make decisions others couldn't. Here's what the masses don't understand about detachment. It's not about not caring. It's about caring so deeply about excellence that you transcend the need for any particular outcome. It's about operating from a place of such complete self-containment that success becomes a natural consequence rather than a desperate need. Think about the great forces of nature. Does the storm care if you approve of its power? Does the mountain need validation of its height? Does the ocean require appreciation of its depth? This is the quality you must cultivate: complete self-containment, total detachment from external validation. Second principle: master the art of strategic indifference. Learn to be equally ready for victory or defeat, praise or criticism, success or failure. Not because you don't prefer one over the other, but because your power comes from your center, not from outcomes. Most people are slaves to outcomes. They rise and fall with their successes and failures. Their confidence is built on results, their worth measured by achievements. This makes them vulnerable. Every setback becomes a crisis. Every failure becomes an identity. Your power must become independent of outcomes. Your authority must transcend results. Your presence must remain unshaken regardless of circumstance. This is not stoicism, this is sovereignty. I have won battles not because I needed to win, but because I was prepared to lose. I've commanded respect not because I craved it, but because I didn't require it. I've built an empire not because I was attached to power, but because I was devoted to excellence. Third principle: understand that attachment is a form of weakness that your enemies will exploit. Every time you become attached to a strategy, to an outcome, to an identity, you create a lever that others can use against you. Detachment makes you impossible to manipulate. Your detachment should become legendary. People should be unsettled by your self-containment, disturbed by your independence, awed by your autonomy. They should never quite know what you truly want, because what you want is excellence itself, not any particular manifestation of it. Remember this: in the game of power, the one who needs the least is the one who gains the most. Every attachment is a string that others can pull. Every desperate desire is a chain they can yank. Every emotional need is a weapon they can use. Your execution must become pristine, untainted by need, unclouded by attachment, uncompromised by desperation. Whether you're advancing or retreating, winning or losing, rising or falling, your power should remain constant, your presence undiminished, your force unshaken. So let me ask you, what attachments are currently compromising your power? What desperate needs are clouding your strategic clarity? What emotional dependencies are making you vulnerable? The time has come to master the art of detachment. Because in the end, true power doesn't come from what you can gain or what you can achieve. It comes from what you can do without, what you can transcend, what you can release. Let your detachment become your armor, your self-containment become your weapon, your independence become your crown. For in the realm of true power, it is not the desperate who triumph, it is the detached who rule. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you is worth more than gold, more valuable than territory, more precious than victory itself. It's the mastery of your emotional domain, the ability to rule your inner empire with the same ruthless efficiency with which you seek to rule your outer one. I've seen empires fall not from lack of strength, but from lack of emotional control. I've watched brilliant commanders destroy themselves, not through enemy action, but through their own unchecked passions. This is the truth that history often overlooks. The greatest battles are not fought on physical battlefields, but in the throne room of your own emotions. Most people are slaves to their emotions. They react to every provocation, chase every feeling, surrender to every impulse. They mistake this emotional reactivity for authenticity, this surrender for freedom. But let me tell you something. There is no freedom in emotional slavery. There is no power in passionate chaos. When I built my empire, I didn't just conquer territories. I conquered myself. Every emotion became a subject to be ruled, every feeling a force to be directed, every passion a power to be harnessed. This wasn't about suppression, it was about sovereignty. First principle of emotional mastery: understand that every emotion is a message, not a command. Anger tells you something needs to change. Fear tells you something needs attention. Pride tells you something needs perspective. The wise ruler doesn't ignore these messages, but neither does he let them dictate his actions. I remember standing before battles where fear whispered of defeat, where anger demanded rash action, where pride urged foolish risks. Lesser commanders would have been ruled by these emotions, but I had learned to listen without surrendering, to acknowledge without obeying, to feel without following. Here's what the masses don't understand about emotional mastery. It's not about becoming cold, not about becoming unfeeling. It's about becoming sovereign. It's about ruling your emotional kingdom with wisdom, with strategy, with imperial authority. Think about how you would rule a province of your empire. Would you let every citizen do whatever they wanted? Would you let every faction pursue its own agenda? Would you let every group act on every impulse? Of course not. The same applies to your emotions. Second principle: establish your emotional hierarchy. Not all emotions deserve equal authority in your inner court. Some should be advisors, some should be soldiers, some should be scouts, but none should be king. You are the emperor of your emotional realm. Most people let their strongest emotion rule their actions. If anger is strongest, anger rules. If fear is strongest, fear rules. If desire is strongest, desire rules. This is the governance of chaos, the leadership of weakness, the strategy of surrender. Your emotions must be organized like an army, each with its role, each with its place, each with its purpose. But the final command, the ultimate authority, must rest with your sovereign will. This is not suppression. This is organization. I've seen commanders lose battles not because they lacked courage, but because they had too much. Not because they lacked passion, but because passion ruled them. Not because they lacked feeling, but because feeling commanded them. Your emotions are powerful allies but dangerous masters. Third principle: master the art of emotional timing. There is a time to feel deeply and a time to act decisively, a time to embrace passion and a time to enforce discipline, a time to let emotions flow and a time to hold them in check. Wisdom lies not in which emotions you feel, but in when you let them influence your actions. Your emotional mastery should become legendary. People should marvel at your self-control, stand in awe of your composure, be unsettled by your ability to remain centered in chaos. This isn't about suppressing your humanity, it's about elevating it to its highest form. Remember this: in the game of power, emotional mastery is not optional, it's essential. Every great leader I've known, every commander who's earned my respect, had this quality in common: they ruled their emotions instead of being ruled by them. Your emotional self-command must become absolute. Whether facing victory or defeat, praise or criticism, loyalty or betrayal, your sovereign authority over your feelings must remain unshaken. This is not about becoming less human. It's about becoming more masterful. So let me ask you, who rules your emotional kingdom? Are you the emperor of your inner empire, or are you merely a subject in it? Do you command your emotions, or do they command you? The time has come to establish absolute sovereignty over your emotional domain. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how many territories you conquer if you can't rule yourself. It doesn't matter how many battles you win if you lose the war within. Let your emotional mastery become your foundation, your self-command become your strength, your inner sovereignty become your power. For in the realm of true leadership, it is not the most passionate who triumph, it is the most masterful who rule. There is a fundamental difference between those who shape history and those who are shaped by it. It's not talent, it's not resources, it's not even opportunity. It's the ability to think strategically when others think emotionally. I didn't conquer Europe by following my feelings. I conquered it by following my strategy. Let me tell you something that most will never understand. The world is not moved by emotions. It's moved by strategy. While the masses react, the masters calculate. While the weak respond to what they feel, the strong respond to what they think. This is the difference between those who lead and those who follow. Most people live in a reactive state. Something happens, they feel something, they act on that feeling. It's a chain of emotional causality that leads nowhere except where the winds of circumstance blow. This is the thinking of slaves, not emperors. When I planned campaigns, I didn't ask myself what I felt like doing. I asked myself what needed to be done. When I made decisions that would shape the fate of nations, I didn't consult my emotions. I consulted my strategic understanding. This isn't about being heartless, it's about being headstrong. First principle of strategic thinking. Every situation must be evaluated through the lens of strategic advantage, not emotional satisfaction. When faced with a decision, don't ask, "How do I feel about this?" Ask, "How can this serve my greater strategy?" I remember moments before crucial battles when emotions ran high. Fear, anger, excitement, doubt. Lesser commanders would let these emotions drive their decisions, but I had learned to think above the emotional storm, to see the strategic landscape with clarity that emotion could never provide. Here's what the masses don't understand about strategic thinking. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about transcending them. It's about developing a level of mental discipline where your strategic understanding speaks louder than your emotional impulses. Think about a game of chess. Does the master player move pieces based on how he feels about them? Does he attack because he's angry or defend because he's afraid? No, every move is calculated, every position evaluated, every decision strategic. This is how you must learn to think about everything. Second principle, develop strategic distance. Learn to step back from situations emotionally so you can engage with them strategically. When others are caught in the heat of the moment, you must cultivate the cold clarity of strategic vision. Most people let their immediate emotions cloud their long-term vision. They sacrifice strategic advantage for emotional satisfaction. They choose what feels good now over what serves their goals later. This is why they remain pawns while others become kings. Your thinking must become purely strategic. Whether dealing with allies or enemies, opportunities or threats, successes or failures, your mind must automatically shift to strategic calculation. What serves the greater strategy? What advances the larger goal? What creates long-term advantage? I've won battles, not because I was braver than my opponents, but because I was more strategic. I've built alliances not because I liked my allies, but because they served my strategic objectives. I've made decisions that felt wrong emotionally, but were right strategically. Third principle, master the art of strategic timing. Know when to advance and when to wait, when to strike, and when to observe, when to speak, and when to remain silent, not based on what you feel like doing, but based on what strategy demands. Your strategic thinking should become legendary. People should be unnerved by your ability to see beyond the emotional surface of situations, to calculate moves while others react, to remain strategic while others become emotional. Remember this, in the game of power, emotional thinking is a luxury you cannot afford. Every emotion you feel must be subjected to strategic analysis. Every reaction you have must be filtered through strategic understanding. Every decision you make must serve strategic objectives. Your strategic thinking must become absolute. Whether facing success or failure, praise or criticism, victory or defeat, your strategic mind must remain engaged. This isn't about becoming machine-like. It's about becoming masterful. So, let me ask you, how much of your current situation is the result of strategic thinking and how much is the result of emotional reaction? Are your decisions serving your strategy or are they serving your feelings? The time has come to master strategic thinking because in the end, history is not written by those who feel the most. It's written by those who think the most strategically. It's not written by those who react emotionally. It's written by those who calculate effectively. Let your strategic thinking become your compass, your calculation become your guide, your strategic understanding become your power. For in the EU realm of true achievement, it is not the most emotional who triumph, it is the most strategic who rule. Listen to me with absolute attention, because what I'm about to share with you is the difference between those who leave their mark on history and those who merely occupy space in it. Vision, not the weak, wishful thinking that most people call vision, but the ruthlessly clear, uncompromisingly precise kind that shaped empires and changed the course of history. When I looked at a map of Europe, I didn't see what was, I saw what would be. When I gazed across battlefields, I didn't see the chaos of combat, I saw the order of victory. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't dreaming. This was vision in its most imperial form, the ability to see with such clarity that reality has no choice but to conform. Most people mistake wishes for vision. They have vague hopes, unclear desires, fuzzy images of what they want. This is not vision. This is confusion masquerading as aspiration. True vision has the clarity of a battlefield map, the precision of a military order, the inevitability of a natural law. First principle of imperial vision: clarity is power. The clearer your vision, the more force it carries. When I planned campaigns, every detail was crystallized in my mind. Supply lines, troop movements, tactical objectives, strategic goals. This level of clarity makes execution inevitable. I remember the faces of other generals when I explained my strategies. They thought such precise vision was impossible. But I had learned that the impossible becomes inevitable when your vision is clear enough to burn through all obstacles, all doubts, all resistance. Here's what the masses don't understand about vision. It's not about what you want. It's about what you see with such clarity that its manifestation becomes a mere formality. It's not about hoping. It's about seeing with such precision that reality itself bends to your view. Think about this. When an architect designs a building, they don't hope it will stand. They know it will, because their vision includes every beam, every support, every foundation stone. This is how your vision must be, not a dream, but a detailed blueprint of inevitability. Second principle, your vision must be maintained with ruthless precision, every day, every hour, every moment. Your vision must be polished like a blade, maintained like a weapon, guarded like a treasure. The moment your vision becomes fuzzy, your power begins to fade. Most people let their vision be corrupted by circumstances, diluted by opinions, weakened by doubts. They adjust their vision to match their current reality instead of adjusting their reality to match their vision. This is why they remain where they are, while others rise to where they see themselves. Your vision must become more real to you than your current circumstances. When I led armies through impossible terrain, My vision of victory was more real than the mountains before us. When I faced overwhelming odds, my vision of triumph was more solid than the enemy's numbers. I've won battles before they began because my vision was clearer than my opponents'. I've conquered territories before I reached them because my vision of victory was more real than the obstacles between us. This is the power of ruthlessly clear vision. It bends reality to its will. Third principle, your vision must be protected at all costs. The world will try to cloud it, people will try to change it, circumstances will try to shake it. This is where most people fail. They let their vision be corrupted by external forces. Your vision should become legendary. People should be able to feel the clarity of your sight, sense the precision of your view, understand that your vision is not a hope, but a foregone conclusion waiting to materialize. Remember this. In the game of power, unclear vision is worse than no vision at all. A fuzzy vision creates fuzzy results. A diluted vision produces diluted achievements. A compromised vision leads to compromised outcomes. Your vision must become absolute. Whether facing success or failure, support or opposition, progress or setback, your vision must remain ruthlessly clear. This isn't about being inflexible, it's about being unshakable. So let me ask you, how clear is your vision? Can you see it with the precision of a military map? Can you describe it with the detail of an architectural blueprint? Can you hold it with the certainty of a natural law? Time has come to develop ruthless clarity of vision. Because in the end, history is not shaped by those who kind of see what they want. It's shaped by those who see with such clarity that what they see becomes what is. Let your vision become your reality, your clarity become your power, your precision become your force. For in the realm of true achievement, it is not the dreamers who triumph, it is the seers who rule. There is a fundamental truth about power that the weak will never understand and the strong never forget. Respect is not given. It is taken. I didn't ask Europe to respect me. I didn't petition for authority. I didn't request recognition. I commanded it through action, through presence, through undeniable force of will. Let me tell you something that most will never grasp. The world does not grant respect to those who deserve it. It yields respect to those who demand it through their every action, their every word, their every movement. I have seen deserving men die without recognition, while those who took what they wanted rose to immortality. Most people wait for respect like beggars waiting for coins. They hope their good deeds will be noticed, their hard work will be recognized, their value will be acknowledged. This is the strategy of the weak, the philosophy of the powerless, the approach of those destined for obscurity. When I rose to power, I didn't wait for France to respect me. I gave it no choice. Every action I took, every decision I made, every battle I fought was a declaration. Respect is not optional. It is inevitable. This wasn't arrogance. It was strategy. First principle of commanding respect. Understand that respect responds to power, not to merit. Merit without power is like a weapon without ammunition, potentially valuable but practically useless. You must learn to project power in everything you do. I remember early in my career watching officers with more experience, more knowledge, more merit being ignored, while those who commanded presence, who projected power, who took respect as their due were listened to, followed, remembered. This taught me something crucial about human nature. Here's what the masses don't understand about respect. It's not earned through good behavior. It's taken through powerful action. It's not granted through patience. It's seized through presence. It's not given through merit. It's commanded through force of personality. Think about the great forces of nature. Does a storm ask for respect? Does a mountain request recognition? Does an ocean petition for acknowledgement? No. They command respect through their mere existence, their undeniable presence, their raw power. Second principle, every action must demand respect. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you stand, the way you sit. Everything you do must carry the weight of command. This isn't about being aggressive. It's about being undeniable. Most people try to earn respect through compliance, through agreeability, through fitting in. They don't understand that respect is not attracted to the agreeable, it's attracted to the powerful. Not to the compliant, but to the commanding. Your presence must become a demand for respect. When you enter a room, it should feel like a force has arrived. When you speak, it should feel like a command has been issued. When you move, it should feel like power is in motion. I've commanded respect not by asking for it, but by making its denial impossible. I've gained authority not by requesting it, but by assuming it as my natural right. I've achieved recognition, not by earning it, but by taking it as my due. Third principle, respect must be maintained through constant demonstration of power. You cannot take it once and expect it to last. Every interaction, every appearance, every engagement must reinforce your command of respect. Your approach to respect should become legendary. People should understand that in your presence, respect is not optional. It's mandatory. Not through threat or force, but through the sheer weight of your presence, the undeniable power of your personality. Remember this: in the game of power, those who wait for respect will wait forever. Those who hope to be recognized will die unknown. Those who expect acknowledgement will be forgotten. Respect is not given to the deserving. It's taken by the powerful. Your command of respect must become absolute. Whether dealing with allies or enemies, superiors or subordinates, friends or foes, your right to respect must be unquestioned. This isn't about being liked, it's about being powerful. So let me ask you, are you still waiting for respect to be given to you? Are you still hoping to be recognized? Are you still expecting your merit to speak for itself? The time has come to stop waiting and start taking. Because in the end, history doesn't remember those who deserved respect. It remembers those who commanded it. It doesn't record those who earned recognition. It records those who seized it. Let your presence become your demand, your power become your right, your force become your authority. For in the realm of true power, respect is not given to those who wait. It's taken by those who rule. Listen carefully, because this truth may be the most liberating thing you'll ever hear. You are not here to be liked. You are here to lead. You are here to command. You are here to rule. I didn't conquer Europe by winning popularity contests. I shaped history by making decisions that others found unthinkable, by taking actions that others found uncomfortable, by pursuing goals that others found impossible. Let me tell you something that most will never understand. The pursuit of likability is the surrender of power. Every time you compromise your vision to be liked, you weaken your position. Every time you dilute your message to be accepted, you diminish your impact. Every time you soften your stance to be approved, you surrender your authority. Most people are slaves to the opinions of others. They shape their actions around approval, mold their decisions around acceptance, craft their lives around likability. This is the path of the weak, the road of the powerless, the journey of those destined for mediocrity. When I made decisions that changed the fate of nations, I didn't consult the court of public opinion. When I launched campaigns that rewrote the maps of Europe, I didn't seek the approval of the masses. This wasn't arrogance. It was necessity. First principle of power. Understand that likability and leadership are often mutually exclusive. The decisions that shape history, that change reality, that forge new paths, are rarely popular in their moment. They require a willingness to be misunderstood, to be criticized, to be opposed. I remember the faces of my advisors when I announced plans that seemed impossible, strategies that seemed reckless, objectives that seemed unreachable. Had I sought their approval, had I pursued their acceptance, had I craved their likability, I would have remained another forgotten general. Here's what the masses don't understand about leadership. It's not a popularity contest, it's a power contest. It's not about being liked, it's about being effective. It's not about being approved of, It's about being decisive. Think about the great forces that shape the world. Does a storm care if you like it? Does an earthquake worry about approval? Does evolution seek consensus? No. They simply exert their force, fulfill their nature, manifest their power. Second principle, every attempt to be liked weakens your ability to lead. When you shape your decisions around approval, you surrender your power to those whose approval you seek. When you modify your actions for acceptance, you become a servant to those whose acceptance you desire. Most people don't understand this. Fundamental truth: the more you need to be liked, the less you are able to lead. The more you seek approval, the less you are able to command. The more you crave acceptance, the less you are able to achieve. Your focus must be singular: effectiveness. Not popularity, not likability, not approval, but pure, ruthless effectiveness. When you speak, it should be to command, not to please. When you act, it should be to achieve, not to appease. When you lead, it should be to succeed, not to satisfy. I've achieved what I achieved not by being liked, but by being right. Not by being popular, but by being effective. Not by being approved of, but by being decisive. This is the price of power, the willingness to be disliked in service of something greater. Third principle, your immunity to the need for approval must become absolute. You must learn to stand alone, to move against the crowd, to break with convention, not for the sake of rebellion, but for the sake of effectiveness. Your approach should become legendary. People should understand that you are not here for their approval, not here for their acceptance, not here for their likes. You are here to accomplish, to achieve, to conquer. Remember this: in the game of power, the need to be liked is a weakness that others will exploit. Every time you choose popularity over effectiveness, likability over impact, approval over achievement, you surrender your power to those whose opinions you fear. Your commitment to effectiveness must become absolute. Whether facing criticism or praise, opposition or support, resistance or assistance, your focus must remain on what works, not what pleases. This isn't about being cruel, it's about being clear. So let me ask you, how much of your potential have you sacrificed on the altar of likability? How many opportunities have you missed in pursuit of approval? How much power have you surrendered in search of acceptance? The time has come to break free from the prison of likability, because in the end, history doesn't remember those who were liked. It remembers those who led. It doesn't record those who were popular. It records those who were powerful. Let your effectiveness become your measure, your impact become your goal, your achievement become your focus. For in the realm of true power, it is not the most liked who triumph, it is the most effective who rule. There is a resource more precious than gold, more valuable than territory, more essential than weapons. It's your energy. I didn't conquer Europe by squandering my force on insignificant battles, by dissipating my power on unworthy opponents, by wasting my energy on meaningless engagements. I protected my energy like a fortress protects its treasure. Let me tell you something that most will never understand. Your energy is your empire. Every interaction depletes it. Every engagement expends it. Every battle consumes it. The way you guard this resource, or fail to, determines whether you rise to power or fall to weakness. Most people leak energy like a damaged vessel leaks water. They engage in every conflict, respond to every provocation, participate in every drama. They don't understand that energy spent on insignificant battles cannot be spent on important wars. When I commanded armies, I didn't just manage soldiers, I managed energy. Every campaign was evaluated not just for its strategic value, but for its energetic cost. Every battle was assessed not just for its military importance, but for its energy requirements. This wasn't convenience, it was strategy. First principle of energy mastery: understand that not every battle deserves your energy, not every challenge deserves your force, not every situation deserves your power. You must learn to be ruthlessly selective about where you spend your energetic currency. I remember watching ambitious young officers exhaust themselves on minor skirmishes, drain their energy on unimportant conflicts, waste their force on insignificant victories. They didn't understand that energy spent cannot be unspent. It must be invested wisely. Here's what the masses don't understand about energy. It's not infinite. It's not renewable in the moment. It's not constantly available. Like any strategic resource, it must be protected, preserved, and deployed with precision. Think about how a fortress protects its resources, with walls, with guards, with systems of defense. This is how you must protect your energy. Create boundaries, establish guards, build systems of preservation. Your energy is your most valuable military asset. Second principle, learn to identify energy drains and eliminate them without mercy. People who consistently take more energy than they provide, situations that regularly consume more force than they generate, engagements that routinely require more power than they return, these are not opportunities, they're threats. Most people allow energy vampires into their lives, permit energy-draining situations to persist, tolerate energy-consuming relationships to continue. They don't understand that every unit of energy wasted on the insignificant is energy denied to the important. Your energy must be guarded like state secrets, protected like strategic resources, preserved like military supplies. When you engage, it must be because the potential return justifies the energetic investment. When you commit, it must be because the objective warrants the energetic expenditure. I've won campaigns not just through superior strategy, but through superior energy management. I've conquered territories not just through military might, but through precise energy deployment. I've achieved victory not just through tactical brilliance, but through energetic efficiency. Third principle, master the art of energy regeneration. Know when to retreat, when to rest, when to rebuild your forces. Understand that strategic withdrawal to restore energy is not defeat. It's preparation for greater victories. Your energy management should become legendary. People should marvel at your stamina, wonder at your endurance, be puzzled by your consistent force. Not because you have more energy than others, but because you protect it more fiercely. Remember this, in the game of power, energy is not just a resource, it's the resource. Every other aspect of power, intelligence, strategy, skill, depends on having the energy to deploy it effectively. Your energy protection must become absolute. Whether facing opportunities or challenges, demands or requests, obligations or invitations, your first consideration must be the energetic cost versus the potential return. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being strategic. So let me ask you, how well are you protecting your energy? What battles are you fighting that don't deserve your force? What situations are you tolerating that drain your power? The time has come to fortify your energetic borders, because in the end, it doesn't matter how brilliant your strategy is if you lack the energy to execute it. It doesn't matter how great your opportunities are if you lack the force to seize them. Let your energy become your treasure, your stamina become your weapon, your endurance become your advantage. For in the realm of true power, it is not the most talented who triumph, it is the most energetically efficient who rule. There will come a moment in your quest for power when you must make a fundamental choice: to stand alone in your truth or to kneel in company with cowards. I faced this choice countless times, when all of Europe stood against me when trusted. Allies betrayed me when the odds seemed impossible. But understand this, I would rather command an army of one than kneel at the head of millions. Let me tell you something that most will never comprehend. Solitude is not a punishment. It's a forge. It's where greatness is tested, where power is refined, where leadership is crystallized. The masses fear solitude because they fear themselves. They would rather be wrong in company than right alone. Most people will abandon their vision at the first sign of isolation. They'll compromise their principles when they feel outnumbered. They'll dilute their power when they sense rejection. This is why they remain followers while others become leaders. When I made decisions that changed the course of history, I often stood alone. When I designed strategies that defied conventional wisdom, I stood alone. When I led campaigns that others deemed impossible, I stood alone. This wasn't isolation. It was elevation. First principle of sovereign solitude: understand that standing alone is often the price of standing tall. The higher you rise, the more you'll find yourself in rarefied air. The stronger you become, the fewer peers you'll have. The more powerful your vision, the more likely you are to stand alone in it. I remember the weight of solitude before crucial battles, when my strategies seemed mad to others, when my decisions seemed reckless to advisors, when my vision seemed impossible to allies. Lesser leaders would have buckled under this isolation. But I had learned that solitude is often the crown of sovereignty. Here's what the masses don't understand about standing alone. It's not about being antisocial, it's about being unwavering. It's not about being stubborn, it's about being sovereign. It's not about being difficult, it's about being decisive. Think about the great forces that have shaped history. They didn't operate by committee. Revolutionary ideas don't emerge from consensus. Transformative visions aren't born from groupthink. Power, in its purest form, often stands alone. Second principle: learn to draw strength from solitude. When others retreat from you, advance into yourself. When others withdraw their support, strengthen your resolve. When others question your vision, deepen your conviction. Most people break under isolation. They see solitude as punishment rather than preparation. They view standing alone as weakness rather than strength. They don't understand that some crowns only fit one head. Some burdens can only be carried by one set of shoulders. Your solitude must become your strength. When you stand alone, stand taller. When you walk alone, walk prouder. When you fight alone, fight harder. This isn't about being against others. It's about being for your vision with such intensity that solitude becomes irrelevant. I've won battles not because I had the most allies, but because I had the most conviction. I've achieved victory not because I had the most support, but because I had the most resolve. I've shaped history not because I was never alone, but because I learned to be powerful in solitude. Third principle: master the art of sovereign solitude. Learn to make decisions alone, to stand by them alone, to bear their consequences alone. Not because you prefer solitude, but because you prefer truth to company, power to popularity, achievement to acceptance. Your relationship with solitude should become legendary. People should marvel at your ability to stand alone, to walk alone, to fight alone if necessary, not because you're antisocial, but because you're sovereign. Remember this: in the game of power, the ability to stand alone is not just an asset, it's a necessity. Every great leader I've known, every commander who's earned my respect, had this quality. They could stand alone when standing alone was required. Your sovereignty must become absolute. Whether facing opposition or isolation, criticism or rejection, doubt or resistance, your ability to stand alone must remain unshaken. This isn't about being prideful, it's about being powerful. So let me ask you, how much of your power have you surrendered to avoid solitude? How much of your vision have you compromised to maintain company? How much of your greatness have you sacrificed to fit in? The time has come to embrace sovereign solitude, because in the end, history doesn't remember those who knelt in company. It remembers those who stood alone. It doesn't record those who compromised for acceptance. It records those who stood firm in solitude. Let your solitude become your strength, your independence become your power, your ability to stand alone become your crown. For in the realm of true leadership, it is not those with the most companions who triumph, it is those with the most conviction who rule. Listen carefully, because this truth cuts through all noise, all excuses, all justifications. Results are the only language that power understands. I didn't convince Europe of my greatness through words. I demonstrated it through victories. I didn't explain my strategies. I executed them. I didn't defend my decisions, I delivered results. Let me tell you something that most will never grasp. The world doesn't care about your intentions, your reasons, or your explanations. It cares about what you deliver. The masses waste their energy explaining while the powerful focus their energy on executing. Most people are trapped in the prison of explanation. They explain why they haven't succeeded, why they couldn't deliver, why they fell short. They don't understand that in the arena of power, explanations are excuses, and excuses are admissions of weakness. When I led armies, I didn't explain my genius, I demonstrated it. When I made strategic decisions, I didn't justify my thinking, I proved it through results. When I faced criticism, I didn't argue, I achieved. This wasn't arrogance, it was efficiency, first principle of power. Understand that results silence all arguments. When you consistently deliver results, you no longer need to explain, to justify, to defend. Results speak a language that no critic can question, no enemy can deny, no opponent can dispute. I remember watching officers waste their energy defending their decisions, explaining their strategies, justifying their actions. They didn't understand that every moment spent explaining was a moment not spent executing. Every breath used in defense could have been used in delivery. Here's what the masses don't understand about results. They're not just outcomes, they're arguments. They're not just achievements, they're assertions. They're not just deliverables, they're declarations. When you consistently deliver results, you speak in the language of power itself. Think about the forces of nature. Does a lightning bolt explain why it strikes? Does an earthquake justify its force? Does a tsunami defend its power? No. They simply deliver results with such undeniable force that explanations become unnecessary. Second principle, learn to let your achievements do. You're talking. When others speak of plans, speak through accomplishments. When others offer promises, offer proof. When others present theories, present results. This isn't about being silent. It's about letting your actions speak louder than any words could. Most people try to build their power through words, promises, explanations, justifications. They don't understand that in the realm of true power, words are weak currency. Results are the gold standard of influence, the ultimate language of authority. Your focus must become singular, delivery, not explanation, not justification, not defense, but pure, consistent, undeniable delivery of results. When you speak, let it be through achievements. When you argue, let it be through accomplishments. When you respond to criticism, let it be through results. I've won arguments not by debating, but by delivering. I've answered critics not through words, but through victories. I've built influence not through explanation, but through execution. This is the highest form of communication in the language of power. Third principle, master the art of letting results compound. Understand that each result you deliver adds to your authority, strengthens your position, reinforces your power. This isn't about single victories. It's about building an undeniable record of achievement. Your relationship with results should become legendary. People should learn to wait for your achievements rather than your explanations, to expect your deliveries rather than your defenses, to anticipate your results rather than your reasons. Remember this, in the game of power, those who explain the most often achieve the least. Those who justify the most accomplish the least. Those who defend the most deliver the least. Power doesn't explain itself. It expresses itself through results. Your commitment to delivery must become absolute. Whether facing doubt or criticism, questioning or opposition, skepticism or resistance, your response must always be the same: deliver results. This isn't about being stubborn, it's about being effective. So let me ask you, how much energy are you wasting on explanation that could be spent on execution? How much time are you losing to justification that could be invested in delivery? How much power are you surrendering to defense that could be directed toward achievement? The time has come to let results speak for you. Because in the end, History doesn't remember those who explained the most. It remembers those who achieved the most. It doesn't record those who justified best. It records those who delivered most. Let your results become your voice, your achievements. Become your argument, your deliveries, become your defense. For in the realm of true power, it is not those who speak the loudest who triumph. It is those who deliver the most who rule. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must make a fundamental choice to live for comfort or to live for legacy. I made this choice countless times in the frozen passes of the Alps, in the burning sands of Egypt, in the blood-soaked fields of Austerlitz. And every time I chose legacy over comfort, greatness over ease, immortality over convenience. Let me tell you something that most will never comprehend. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. Every moment you spend in comfort is a moment you're not spending on legacy. Every decision you make for ease is a decision you're not making for immortality. The masses choose comfort because they think in days. Leaders choose legacy because they think in centuries. Most people will sacrifice their potential on the altar of comfort. They'll trade their greatness for convenience, their legacy for ease, their immortality for temporary pleasure. This is why they live lives that history forgets, while others live lives that history remembers. When I made decisions that shaped the destiny of nations, I didn't choose what was comfortable. I chose what would echo through time. When I designed strategies that changed the face of warfare, I didn't select what was easy. I selected what would be studied for centuries. This wasn't sacrifice, it was investment. First principle of legacy: understand that comfort dies with you, but legacy lives forever. Every comfort you enjoy today will be forgotten tomorrow. Every ease you embrace now will vanish with time. But the mark you leave on history, that endures. I remember the temptation of comfort, warm beds when I should be planning, easy victories when I should be pushing further, comfortable choices when I should be taking risks. Lesser leaders would have yielded to these temptations, but I had learned that comfort is the prison where legacy goes to die. Here's what the masses don't understand about legacy. It's not built in comfort zones. It's not created in safe spaces. It's not forged in easy moments. Legacy is built in the moments when comfort calls and you choose greatness instead. Think about the great figures who shaped history. Did they choose comfort? Did Alexander stop at the borders of Greece because it was comfortable? Did Caesar remain a senator because it was easy? Did any great leader choose comfort over legacy? Second principle: learn to be comfortable with discomfort. When others seek ease, seek challenge. When others retreat to comfort, advance into difficulty. When others choose the soft path, choose the hard road. This isn't about being masochistic. It's about being historic. Most people organize their lives around comfort. They make decisions based on what's easy, choose paths based on what's convenient, build lives based on what's comfortable. They don't understand that comfort is the currency of the forgotten. Your focus must become eternal, not what feels good now, but what will matter later. Not what brings comfort today, but what will bring significance tomorrow. Not what makes life easy in the moment, but what makes life meaningful through time. I've achieved immortality not by seeking comfort, but by sacrificing it. I've built legacy not by embracing ease, but by rejecting it. I've shaped history not by choosing convenience, but by choosing greatness at any cost. Third principle: master the art of trading present comfort for future significance. Understand that every comfort you reject in service of your mission, every ease you sacrifice for your goal, every convenience you deny for your purpose is an investment in your legacy. Your relationship with legacy should become legendary. People should marvel at your willingness to sacrifice comfort for greatness, to reject ease for significance, to trade convenience for immortality. Remember this: in the game of power, comfort is not a friend, it's a seducer. It promises pleasure. but delivers mediocrity. It offers ease, but ensures obscurity. It presents convenience, but guarantees forgettability. Your commitment to legacy must become absolute. Whether facing comfort or challenge, ease or difficulty, convenience or hardship, your choice must always be the same: legacy over comfort. This isn't about being harsh, it's about being historic. So let me ask you, how much of your potential are you sacrificing for comfort? How much of your legacy are you trading for ease? How much of your greatness are you surrendering for convenience? The time has come to choose legacy over comfort, because in the end, history doesn't remember those who chose ease. It remembers those who chose greatness. It doesn't record those who sought comfort. It records those who sought significance. Let your legacy become your compass, your significance become your guide, your immortality become your goal. For in the realm of true achievement, it is not those who live most comfortably who triumph. It is those who live most memorably who rule. Here we stand, at the culmination of everything I've taught you, facing the most fundamental truth about power. In this world, you either rule or you are ruled. There is no middle ground, no comfortable compromise, no safe harbor between these two absolutes. I didn't become Emperor of France by accepting the world as it was. I seized it and reshaped it according to my vision. Let me tell you something that most will never accept. The world is not a neutral place waiting for your participation. It is an active force that will dominate you if you don't dominate it first. Every moment you're not actively ruling your world, you're passively being ruled by it. Most people live their lives in surrender to circumstances. They accept the conditions they're given, adapt to the limitations they face, conform to the boundaries they encounter. They don't understand that this passive acceptance is itself a choice to be ruled rather than to rule. When I rose to power, I didn't ask permission from the world, I gave it instructions. When I faced obstacles, I didn't adapt to them, I forced them to adapt to me. When I encountered boundaries, I didn't respect them, I redrew them. This wasn't arrogance, it was necessity. First principle of absolute rule: understand that every aspect of your life either serves your empire or undermines it. Your time either works for you or against you. Your relationships either strengthen you or weaken you. Your habits either empower you or enslave you. I remember watching men of great potential submit to circumstances, bow to limitations, surrender to conditions. They didn't understand that circumstances are not commands to be obeyed. They're challenges to be conquered. Limitations are not boundaries to be respected. They're barriers to be broken. Here's what the masses don't understand about rule. It's not about controlling others. It's about refusing to be controlled. It's not about dominating people. It's about dominating circumstances. It's not about forcing your will on the world. It's about refusing to let the world force its will on you. Think about how nature operates. Does a lion ask permission to hunt? Does an eagle request the right to soar? Does a storm seek approval to rage? No. They act according to their nature, their power, their purpose. This is how you must learn to operate in your world. Second principle: every moment of passivity is a moment of submission. When you accept conditions you could change, you choose to be ruled. When you adapt to limitations you could break, you choose to be governed. When you surrender to circumstances you could conquer, you choose to be dominated. Most people think ruling is about having power over others. They don't understand that true rule begins with having power over yourself, your circumstances, your world. Every time you make an active choice instead of a passive acceptance, you strengthen your rule. Your approach to life must become imperial. Every morning when you wake, you must see your world as territory to be conquered, circumstances to be commanded, conditions to be controlled. This isn't about being aggressive, it's about being sovereign. I've maintained power not just through military might, but through absolute refusal to be ruled by circumstances. I've built an empire not just through conquest of territories, but through conquest of limitations. I've achieved supremacy not just through command of armies, but through command of myself. Third principle, master the art of active rule. Learn to see every situation as a territory to be conquered, every challenge as a battle to be won, every circumstance as a condition to be commanded. This isn't about being controlling, it's about being commanding. Your rule should become legendary. People should marvel at your refusal to be ruled by circumstances, your determination to command your destiny, your insistence on shaping your world rather than being shaped by it. Remember this: in the game of power, there is no neutral ground. Every moment you're not actively ruling, you're passively being ruled. Every instant you're not actively commanding, you're passively being commanded. Every second you're not actively shaping, you're passively being shaped. Your commitment to rule must become absolute. Whether facing favorable or unfavorable circumstances, easy or difficult conditions, supportive or opposing forces, your stance must remain the same. You will rule your world or it will rule you. So let me ask you one final time. Are you ruling your world or is it ruling you? Are you commanding your circumstances or are they commanding you? Are you shaping your destiny or is it shaping you? The time has come to make your choice, because in the end, history doesn't remember those who let themselves be ruled. It remembers those who chose to rule. It doesn't record those who submitted to circumstances. It records those who commanded them. Let your rule become your reality, your command become your nature, your dominion become your legacy. For in the realm of true power, there are only two positions, ruler or ruled. Choose now, choose well, and choose forever.